Hi guys, this is Erica Weston with Fox Sports Midwest, and you're listening to my favorite St. Louis Blues hockey podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio.
Welcome to Season 8, Episode 68 of Let's Go Blues Radio, the often imitated but never duplicated, the original St. Louis Blues hockey podcast. We're broadcasting live on Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. This is franchise episode number 254 all time. Your hosts tonight are yours truly, Kurt Price, Bill Day, and Jeff Ponder. And for your listening pleasure, for the next little while, we'll be talking Stanley Cup champion St. Louis Blues hockey. To interact with the show on social media, follow the show on Twitter at LGB Radio. My handle is at Kurt Price, Bill's is at Billy Blue Note, and Jeff's is at JPonder94. You can follow the show on Instagram, like it on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch past live shows that we do every week during the season, as well as the summer interview series that is hosted by Jeff Ponder, which is generally done during the off season, but due to the pause we're in right now, those have started already. So for those of you watching the live show on YouTube right now, feel free to comment in the live chat and we'll address what we can. And as always, the website is letsgoblues.com, where you can get everything associated with the show, the live show videos, the podcast, links to our social media accounts, discussion forum, stat analysis tools, blues themed t-shirts, stickers, and more. So you might want to give that a look. Hey guys, it's been a while since we've done a live show. Been like a month or so, right? How you guys doing? You surviving?
Surviving. I'm doing as well as I can.
Yeah. On month 3 of work from home, and got at least 2 more coming up. So
wow.
Yeah, it's I don't miss the commute, I'll tell you that much.
You're probably saving a ton of gas.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about a new car next year, and I'm able to put that off probably another year or 2. So
yeah, there's the positive of the coronavirus right there. Bill Day with the positive news.
And I'm not gonna lie, I mean, working from home is nice. It's especially with 2 kids. It's convenient during the summer so far. With don't have to worry about babysitters or things like that. And my work has been great with letting folks work from home. It's easy for what I do, my job, so I can do it no problem. But actually, I realized just the other day that a lot of people at my place of employment have pretty much been doing nothing for the past 2.5 months.
Oh, for sure.
because they can't, because they can't do their job from home. So they're just, I mean, they're getting paid. So it's, I mean, that's a nice gig going on right now.
You hiring?
I'm sure they're hiring somewhere.
Find me a position. That sounds great.
I've been working, but every day. But it just occurred to me the other day that a lot of people probably aren't, which is crazy to me. But I get it. The official beers of episode number. I have an announcement, don't we, Jeff? With you want to do that now?
Yeah, sure. It's brief. First of all, you mentioned the interview series at the top, the Past the Future. If you have not heard, because a lot of what we're going to talk about, I briefly mentioned last week in the open of the Grant Fuhr episode. If you have not heard that, if you're like, I hate Jeff Ponder, why can't it be one of the other hosts? Kurt Price was on that show. So join the show or listen to the show. Myself and Kurt Price were able to interview Grant Fuhr. So that's definitely a great show. Bill didn't want to come on because he hates Grant Fuhr. So that's just how it worked out.
Patrick Waugh forever.
That's right.
We didn't have Brodeur on. It was Fuhr. You were golfing, Bill, that day? Is that right?
I was,
Yeah.
and I was, God, I must have had heat stroke or something, even though it was like a perfectly peaceful 70-degree day out. When I got home, I had so little energy. All I could do was melt into my recliner. So, um,
I've been there.
just I
The post golf exhaustion where you just want to just lay down and do nothing.
yeah,
I get it. I've been there.
I found that
it
it's
was
the same as like if you have to mow your lawn like today. I did that today. Mowed my lawn, every part of it, every inch, did all the trimming, came in and just wanted to pass out for 6 hours. So I think it's similar. It's similar to that.
It's like it's exposed to the sun. You're out in the sun. It's just yeah.
The announcement,
yeah,
the actual announcement. Sorry, no, I didn't actually make. You asked for the announcement. I didn't actually make the announcement you wanted me to make. So let's make that announcement now, folks. Real quick, this is new information. I haven't posted this anywhere yet, but for those that have been wondering what's going to happen with the 2020 Stanley Ponder Cup Memorial Tournament we have in November, we are still planning on holding it right now. And for those that don't know what it is, it's a roller hockey tournament. Kurt and Bill have both participated in the past. Obviously, I participate every year. We have great raffles every year. Last year, we had a Bennington Stanley Cup final jersey. We've had, in the past, we've had a Jim Craig, I think. But I know it was a Team 1980 USA Hockey jersey. Great stuff. We get them every year. So
you had a basket of meat one year?
A basket of meat one year. That's true.
That my daughter won.
That's true. She also won a really awesome painting.
She did. It's hanging up in her room right now.
That's awesome. But yeah, so those wondering what the deal with that is, it's still tentatively scheduled. Queenie Park has not reopened yet, the rink that we play at, Midwest Sport Hockey. But as soon as they get open, we're going to figure out a day, and they're going to want to do it too. I know because we, again, another big announcement here, we typically give to the charities that were near and dear to my father's heart that almost saved his life back in 2015. This year, we've decided, because the rink is so generous every year with what they charge us and just, because rink time is expensive, they help us out a lot. We are going to give all proceeds back to Midwest Sport Hockey because they have been closed for months now and are facing a lot of financial hardships. So if that's any incentive more to come out and spend some money, join the league, or join the tournament, or bid on some raffle items, do the 50-50, all means, come out. Again, we're expecting the Saturday before Thanksgiving. We don't know for sure yet. And Jimmy Anderson says Perry is the man. Perry Turnbull. He actually owns Midwest Sport Hockey. Owns.
Who owned a Midwest Sport Court Hockey?
Tell them to not lock that one door, the one side of the arena, and I'll play this year because.
Oh, dude. So I won't name names, but luckily they've got not brand new, it's probably about a year old now, a new rink manager. And the last rink manager was great. We always got along with him, but every tournament we tell him, hey, we're going to be there 2 hours early to set up. He always forgot. We had to set up because you could still break in. It's easy to break into Midwest. Don't try it, but just know that there was always a door that you could sneak through. So we always had to set up in the dark, and he would show up right before puck drop. That was always fun.
I just remember the one door that I came in, I couldn't go out. The first year that the first year was at Queenie, I guess it was. I know Bill and I rode together, and we had to walk a mile. It was balls cold outside. Shorts on.
Was that when did you have to walk through the ice rink?
No, we had to walk out the back. We walked by the concession stand.
We had to park over by the ice rink.
Yes,
and that's why the walk was so long.
Yeah, we had the door that we had to leave was by the concession stand there.
Wow,
sucked.
Yeah, well, well, I'll figure it out for you, Kurt. I'll make sure.
Figure it out.
All right. I guess the official beers of episode number 254. Bill, have you chugged yours yet?
I have not, but I'm going to do my best to go on mute as I drink it. Hey, this kind of lines up with my Twitter image. It's the dog and the beer. I'm going with rocket surgery. One of Kurt's favorite phrases. It's not rocket surgery,
It's not
but
rocket surgery.
tonight it is. It is. It is today. So it's from Surly, out of Twin Cities. So big fan of this brewery, and yeah, it's a hazy IPA. You know, it's a decent summer beer. I like it.
What do you got, Jeff?
Well, first of all, I want to address the people in the YouTube chat. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We've got a couple hellos from people: Jimmy Anderson, Hawaii Blues fan, Austin Lynch, Squirrely Dan, all you guys saying hey to us. We appreciate it, and good to hear from you all. We missed you, and but most importantly, Squirrely Dan does tell us, "Been a minute, boys. How are you now? Good, and you?
Good, and you? Not so bad.
Not so bad." But mine is actually friends from the Center Ice Brewery. I'm going with the Old Arena Lager, brewed right here in Midtown. So again, for those that don't know, you can go up to Center Ice and get their beer for pickup, or you could have it delivered if you're in around the vicinity of the 270 loop. Just put your address in on their site, and it'll tell you if they deliver to you. But I've been getting all my beer from them during quarantine, and I have not regretted it one bit. I've loved every minute of it.
I made a trip over there to get some beer myself. Very easy, streamlined process. Quite nice. My beer is nothing special. It is it's special to me. I got myself a Bud Light Orange, first one in a while. It's summertime, so we're going with the Mr. Blues Hat's favorite.
I was gonna say Mr. Blues Hat's turning in his grave right now.
Bud Light Orange. Yep. I can't have one after I've had like a stout or something, but if I just have this, it's fine. Today in Blues History, courtesy of the @STL Blues History Twitter account, June 3rd, 2019, last year. Not a whole lot of Today in Blues Histories in June, but St. Louis Blues tie the St. Louis Blues tie the Stanley Cup final.
Sorry, a little indigestion. Sorry, guys.
The St. Louis Blues tie the Stanley Cup final at 2 games each with a 4-2 victory over the Boston Bruins. Ryan O'Reilly scored a goal 43 seconds into the game, and later the game winner. This was the Blues' first Stanley Cup final win on home ice in team history. So Alex Pietrangelo also set the new Blues record for assists by a defenseman. I put money on this game. And I was watching this game with some friends. Bill knows him, Tommy Gibbons, and Jeff Foster at Place in O'Fallon. I forgot the name of it. Shooters, maybe? I think it was Shooters. And picked the Blues to win, and I picked them to win by 2. So it was kind of like a double. I don't know what you call it. I'm not a betting guy. I just they'll win by 2. So I won twice. So I bet 4 times on the series. 1-3, and each time I won, I had a really good feeling about betting. The one time I wasn't sure about, I did anyway. They lost, so my gut was on point in that series.
Or as the French say, en poids.
En poids. Do they, Bill? I don't think so.
No, they do not. I want to add point. Yeah, point. I want to add that
L point
at the beginning of the show, when you say the St. Louis Blues Stanley Cup champions, that is still true, and we are in June of 2020, so that feels pretty good.
I know, right? We can say it for a little while longer.
And I will add too that I'm excited about the year anniversary of June 6th, because that is when I set my phone background. Hang on, let me see if I can.
You haven't changed it since?
There. Have not changed it since, and that is for those that are podcasting. It is is that Nola Chari, right? That's who it is on his one knee.
Yeah.
After the Tyler Bozak trip, that June 6th, 2019 was Game 5, and that was when that play happened. And since then, I have found my phone background for the rest of my life.
That's the ultimate trolling image. That game is the ultimate trolling game for any Bruins and Blues fan discussion. The What a Trip game.
It's just, I mean, I know that people have seen it behind me here. You can't see it in the image now, but right over my left shoulder, I've got the great headline from Post Dispatch up, the What a Trip. And that really is, I mean, it sucks for Bruins fans because it should have been called. But that picture of Achari on his knee and the Blues celebrating behind him, there's not anything more beautiful to look at as a Blues fan, except for them holding the cup.
I don't think. What do you say, Bill?
I was just going to say, going back to the today in Blues history, I was actually at the game, so that was. It was an amazing fucking night. The greatest experience to that point that I had ever had with respect to a hockey game. The atmosphere was insane. The euphoria with every goal, I can still feel it. I can also still feel the few grand that I'm lighter because of it.
Were you in your seat for the first goal? Or Riley's goal?
Yes, we were. We were down there at like 4:00. We went down very early for all the festivities, and we're inside the building. Actually, had already purchased a jersey and was just waiting for the Stanley Cup patch to be put on it. So it was something I will never forget. Just such an amazing game.
I don't think we can do a show tonight without talking a bit about what's going on in the nation right now, especially since the Blues released a statement on it, which kind of ties it in for a hockey-related a subject of sorts, at least what we're going to talk about anyway. So yes, this is a Blues hockey podcast. So, but let's not spend a lot of time on it because I think people are kind of being bombarded with the news from the protests to what Trump is or isn't doing, to the riots, to the nonstop. It's just nonstop. So it's some pretty heavy stuff, and quite frankly, I'm ready for 2020 to be over. But
yes.
The whole idea of sports, like most of us turn to sports is, to get away from this. So the fact that the big sports news of the day is, teams and players making statements. It's still kind of a way to escape, but at this point there is no escaping it, right? So let's talk about it.
When I told my 10-year-old daughter, I was putting her to bed last night, and then I told her we were doing a show tonight. She asked if we were going to talk about what's going on with the protests and stuff, and I told her, because she knows a little about what's going on, bits and pieces, not a lot of detail though, but she knows it's bad. And I told her, I said, yeah, maybe a little bit, but not much, since we want to focus mainly on hockey, but there's a hockey tie-in with it all. And, she gave me a hug and she said, just tell everyone to be safe, Daddy. And
man.
And I was like, man, I was like, God, she gets it,
the innocence of children.
I know. So I'm like, so if you're out there, be safe. From my daughter, be safe, and
that's true.
I'll throw in be kind too. That doesn't hurt.
No, I mean, again, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but it's something that has touched me and touched all of us in different ways, and there's been anger, there's been sadness, there's been outrage, there's been everything to go along with it. So yes, it's important to at least call attention to it. For those watching on the podcast, they can see that I'm a nerd, and I have a hat that says Justice for George Floyd, just because I am not saying a political statement about police or anything, as people at Home Depot like to ask me as I was wearing this hat earlier. That is not what I'm saying. I am saying that a dead man deserves justice. So it's a shame what happened, and I'm happy to see that there was some news today that went along with it that I think should make a lot of people sleep a little better tonight.
The Blues and Cardinals finally released a joint statement yesterday under their One Nation brand regarding the social unrest right now. So we can talk a little bit about that. So the statement goes as follows. This is, again, the Blues and Cardinals joint statement. The St. Louis Blues and St. Louis Cardinals stand united in support of racial equality for all and with those who march peacefully to highlight and protest racism, bigotry, and violence. There is no place for intolerance in our society. We also stand with those who work every day to better society and with those who honorably wear the uniform as they protect and serve all of us. We will continue to work together as one nation and ask that all of our supporters join us in redoubling our efforts to give back and support the community we love. So a lot of people had this statement took a while to come out. Most teams in the league had released a statement before the Blues did. Not a lot of players. Some players did, which was good to see. But a lot of people had a problem with this. Personally, and you guys can weigh in as well. I don't know if you feel the same way or not. But personally, I was not shocked at what they said. I kind of called this. I think a lot of people knew this was going to happen this way. I wasn't shocked at what they said. I expected this kind of statement because this is the kind of stuff that organizations tend to do. This is like a rubber stamped template, a check off the boxes kind of a statement. But I was disappointed that they didn't do better. I think they did the bare minimum, and I think that kind of sucks with this. I appreciate them putting it out. Something is better than nothing, but I really thought that this could have gone a whole lot farther, been a lot more specific, been a lot less. Reading like a cold form letter with no heartfelt anything in it really. It's a nothing statement to me with no mention of doing anything to actually improve things, except to mention that people should try harder, which it's real insightful there. That doesn't resonate with me whatsoever. So
yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, I'll say that I think it's kind of silly that nowadays we look to sports teams to release statements like this.
I agree.
I'm saying overall, I think it's completely silly, but unfortunately, just like many things that we have to deal with nowadays with social media and everybody having cameras on their phones, it is part of the world now. This is just what you have to do as a business, as a corporation. I think a lot of, and maybe I'm reading into this because I'm here in St. Louis. I'm in St. Louis County. I think a lot of fans and people just across the nation were specifically looking at the Cardinals and Blues because, one, they're two of the biggest teams in sports right now. I mean, the Blues are atop the NHL news, and the Cardinals are always going to be the Cardinals. But because of what happened in Ferguson so many years ago, I think people were kind of waiting for the Blues and Cardinals to come out and say something profound, like, we've been there before. Here's our advice. Here's what we think. And like you said, Kurt, with this being such a blanket statement, it's just silly. I would have actually preferred, even though I said that I think people now need teams to come out and say what they need to say about this, I would have actually preferred the Blues just stay silent, and the Cardinals, because that was just, again, you tried to not take a stance on either side, and I get that, but I mean, again, like I said earlier about myself, I'm not saying that all cops are bad. I'm just saying the 4 that were involved are bad. And there should be justice brought to George Floyd and his family. I don't think there's anything wrong with the Blues and Cardinals coming out and saying something like that. So the fact that they just glossed over this with a very blanket statement, and they're one of the last teams to do it too, it's just not a good look.
To me, if they're gonna, they took almost a week to get this out for something that probably really could have been written in 2 minutes, is kind of interesting to me too. You just want your team, and I differ a little with what you said, Jeff, and then I think what they put out was better than not doing anything at all. But my issue is, and I think you're of that opinion too, is that they have this huge opportunity to reach a vast audience with their message,
yes.
And they kind of just swung and missed on this one, or they missed an open net, to coin a hockey phrase.
They pulled a Patrick Stefan.
yeah. You want your team, the defending Stanley Cup champs, right, to have this kick-ass, eye-opening statement that makes people say, "Wow, that was really good. Well said. Good job." Hopefully that resonates with some people. And instead, they gave us something that will be 100% forgotten in 2 days. So
Yep.
I think they should have had Jonathan Toews write their statement because he hit it out of the park.
Oh my God, fantastic! Very well
Yeah.
said.
Yeah, Sheldon agrees. You kind of got to my point, or give me a nice segue from my point. At the point that they released this statement, it almost felt like, there had been, at least from the reading of my reading of my timeline, that there had been pressure for them to do something, so they just did, you know. Kurt said the bare minimum, but something that was just very vanilla, very bland, and non-offensive to anyone.
Right.
They took no risks with it, right? And that's what
Mhm.
corporations historically have done. I think, to Jeff's point, we've evolved past that in the social media era, that you want thought leaders, and you want people to be genuine, and not just, oh, we're a business, we're not going to wade into it. But at the point that they released it, it was after, at least for me, I saw it after I read the Jonathan Davis statement. And at that point, why not just leave it to the players? The players have been
Yeah.
just, by and large, knocking it out of the park
Mhm.
with, to coin a baseball phrase. They've just been, like Patrice Bergeron's statement tonight was also, just very eloquent, very well put. And they're also, they're taking the extra step of actually making things better, making donations to charitable organizations that will help the community. At very least, the Blues and Cardinals could have said, we're giving money to backstoppers, and we're also giving money to, the other, local organizations that help in the inner city. It was very, it felt very, very much like they felt they had to do it, but didn't necessarily want to.
What does
Kurt? I'm gonna interrupt real quick. I'm just gonna just a couple comments here. I want to get to YouTube. Hold your thought, because I want you to. I know what you're about to say is profound, because that's what Kurt Price does. Jimmy Anderson, friend of the show, says Kurt's daughter is better at PR than the leader of our nation. So that's probably true.
we don't talk politics on the show?
Trump. Nothing against Trump. It's just that Kurt's daughter is a genius, and that's exactly what Jimmy's saying. Another friend chimes in, Winning Unlimited, our good friend Adam, we've had on the show before. He says hi, and he says, let me see. Will we, and again, we don't need to get too in depth into a lot of this stuff, but he's going to ask a question here. Will we see now more respect for differences? Do the Blues act differently for Hockey is for Everyone night for the LGBT community? And it's funny because I think we've all agree on this show that we don't get that. We don't understand what the big deal is and why that was such a ridiculous thing by the Blues to not have a Hockey is for Everyone night, an actual night during a home game. They're just pandering to the vocal minority. So hopefully we don't see that with them. We'll see. But I don't expect a huge change in those terms.
No, and we were vocal on that issue when it came up earlier this season and last year when they stripped down and watered down Pride Night, essentially ripping the balls off of Pride Night. And then this season they didn't have a Pride Night, and it's Hockey is for Everyone. It's on an away gets watch party. It's just, they're just stripping stuff down to its, bare nothing. So, but what I was going to say earlier was the statement in here that the Blues make We will continue to work together. This is the last part of the statement. We will continue to work together as one nation and ask that all of our supporters join us in redoubling our efforts to give back and support the community we love. What does that even mean? What does it mean to? They're saying that they will continue to work together, so they're going to do pretty much the same thing they've been doing, and ask that their supporters join them in redoubling their efforts. So try harder to give back and support the community we love. What does that mean? What does that mean in relationship to what's going on now?
It's such a blanket statement. They found every cliche they could throw into a statement.
It's not even a blanket statement. It's generic. I don't know. I mean, if I really feel that if they meant something by that, they should have said so. They have, a huge canvas to write on for this stuff, and it's, what was this, like 4 paragraphs, 4 sentences? So it's not that much. But
I want to add real quick. Sorry to keep trying to divulge us away from this conversation, but Kurt found out a way that we are able to now stream on Facebook when we do our live shows.
I was going to mention,
and I don't know if you guys have that up too, but
is it working? Did you try?
We do have. Yeah, I'm on there right now, and okay. I've got the chat up, and Robert Dunn adds that he's listening from Arizona. Robert Dunn is the wonderful man who purchased a Let's Go Blues radio jersey that I don't even know if he's technically listened to the show, but he said he loved the jersey, and he saw the post from All Black Hockey Sticks, so he wanted to purchase one. So cool. Thank you for your contribution. That money went straight back into the show, into making things better for the future. So thank you to Robert. And again, if you want to hop over on Facebook and watch us there, you can do that as well, not just on the YouTube broadcast.
That was an option that we had that I never really played with, and I figured, you know what, it's out there. I'll turn it on and we'll see what it does. I didn't. I meant to ask you to look at it, Jeff, when we were doing the show, but that's cool. It's working.
Oh, it's working. It looks great. Everything looks great.
Good. So it's YouTube and Facebook now. Cool.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. That's so you can find us on both those platforms whenever we go live.
So anyway, and to kind of close this out, I got torched a bit for something I posted on the show's Twitter account last week. It was I'm not okay. So I want to clarify to anyone who needs to hear this, and there are a few of you out there that, and you know who you are, concerning an image that I tweeted out last week on the show's Twitter account. And it's crazy that I even have to say this or clarify this information, but I was not insinuating any Boston Bruins player actually be murdered. Yes, that is what someone literally thought I meant. I was not supporting racism. I was not making fun of the tragedy in Minnesota. Anyone who knows me knows that the idea that I would ever create something with that psycho message is completely absurd. The image was an attempt, probably a poor attempt, at social commentary denouncing the tragedy in Minnesota with a hockey tie-in. Nothing more. It was nothing more than that. After seeing how it was being received by some, I realized my error in judgment in posting it. Okay, I thought better of that, took it down and apologized. Thought that'll be the end of it. So hopefully that clarifies the issue for anyone who saw it. And, it was nice to see a number of people go after a punk kid who actually took a screenshot of my tweet and put it back out there along with his own crazy accusatory comments about what it meant. A number of people told him that he was making things way worse than the original tweet ever was. Which
that's exactly true.
Is 100% true. So what are you going to do? Keyboard warriors in the mom's basement. So.
No, I Kurt, I want to add too. I mean, it's not just you. You shot it over to me and you asked, "What do you think about this?" And listen, I mean, I'll be honest. My friends and I, my hockey teammates, we share stuff with each other in Facebook Messenger and text that probably the rest of the world should never see. We make terrible jokes, but it's, we joke and we joke and we joke, but it's because we know that we're all comfortable. We don't mean any of the demeaning things that might be said to each other. Again, if you've ever been in a hockey locker room, I'm not trying to defend it. I'm not trying to make the locker room comment. That's just how a lot of us are wired. It doesn't mean anything. And so when Kurt shot that image over to me, I said, yeah, man, go ahead and post it. And so it's not just you. I gave you the thumbs up. Go ahead and do it. And I knew it would be crossing a line, but I thought, it's funny. And to me, it meant we're taking a stance that we are still hockey guys. We are still a fun podcast, and we're just wanting to have a little fun and make everybody kind of laugh on their timeline. Because right now, if you jump on Twitter, it's all bad shit, worse than usual. So that was why I was all for it. But it obviously got taken the wrong way. And we had people that were calling you out saying you only took it down because you didn't get any likes on it, which, by the way, I will say is untrue. Some people did. But yes, how and then you apologized. And people said, why are you apologizing? You only apologize because you didn't get the reaction you wanted. Why does anybody apologize for anything ever? You would never apologize for something if it wasn't for the way people reacted to it.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Go ahead.
I wouldn't say it was taken the wrong way. I would say that we just the intent behind it was not received by those that viewed it. So they just viewed it differently than I did. I don't know if there's a right.
Me too.
I don't know if there's a right or a wrong there. But it was just I think intent is huge here. So that needs to be the primary factor in this. And I said it was up for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It wasn't up for very long. And the kid who took a screenshot and put it back up after I took it down, and then ripped us a new one, and other people saw it and then said the same thing. That just makes things worse. And I didn't understand. That was just an attack on the show, an attack on us for some reason, just wanted to go off on us. So, I mean, it was up, down, apology. That should have been it. But
no, and again, we're probably already talking about this more than we should because it's a silly thing that happened. But go ahead. And
I bring it up because we talk about it because the image is still out there under his account, and that's why if anybody sees it, okay, and if anybody that's listening to the show and they see that image, I want them to know the context behind it and the real reason, the real story behind it. Not this kid's interpretation of what he thinks this image is, or what he is saying this image, why it was put up. It's totally bullshit, is what he says.
And let's put it like this too: the whole screen grab thing. The reason that people do that is when you're wanting to, I don't know, maybe a player, maybe a famous person had some derogatory comments made. I mean, Jordan Binnington back in the day with his comments about the airport, which were so egregious. And I'm so glad that San Jose Reporter grabbed him and posted him the first day of the playoffs because, my God. No, if anyone remembers that story, that's a ridiculous.
What was his name?
That's getting off on a tangent. I can't even remember.
Start with a G, right?
Galifianakis or something.
Yeah, it's totally not worth remembering.
Paul Gackle.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's worth remembering.
I went off on a tangent.
Anyway.
But basically, that's there for other reasons. For him to screen grab that and then basically jump on and say what he said about making sure nobody ever works with us again. I just have a little advice for this kid. For those of you that listen to the show may not know, I used to be in the media. And
wait,
what?
Wait, what?
I know, crazy.
Wait, you need a raise, Jeff. I didn't know that.
Me. This guy. No, I will say that if that's your way of trying to make a name for yourself, you're not doing it right. No one is going to pay attention to that bullshit. So I'm not going to call it again. We're not going to mention this person's name. You know who you are if you're listening. If you're trying to take our show down, it's silly. We have a little bit more leeway in the Blues community than you do. So just go ahead and take a step back and reassess what you're doing. We made a mistake. We admitted mistake. We apologized. It's all over. Just step back and move on with your life. There's more important things going on in the world right now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, I felt like the whole thing, was retaliatory for, Kurt being critical of his Scandella bad take. But
Oh,
Two,
great!
two,
Everybody knows who it is.
two. He's got two bad Scandella takes. And
yeah,
actually, after the first one, I invited him on the show, and he didn't come on. He didn't respond. So
right. No, he put this in his pocket and then blew it up as soon as you took it down for the right reason. So
whatever. I mean,
yeah,
like I said, if he wouldn't have screen grabbed it and put it back up, and it wasn't out there, I wouldn't feel the need to do this. But if people see it, I want them to maybe have heard this show and know what that's all about, and not think that we still that image is out there, and that's something that don't take this kid at his word. So we've spent too much time on this anyway. But
Yeah, so let's go ahead and move on from that. I'll add that we're on Facebook now too, on YouTube. First of all, good friend of mine, Jessie Reinery, former I think she was a champion of my fantasy hockey league, has joined. So Jessie, I want to say hey, thanks for watching the show. And Bobby Johnson asks, will the Blues face Boston for the Cup again? We might get into that.
I mean, why not?
Why not?
Why not?
And also over on the YouTube side, man, we got too many chats to keep track of now. Hotard12 calling me John Hadley. I'm going to beat your ass next time I see you on the hockey rink, buddy. Just look out.
You need to develop a John Hadley accent or a impersonation.
What?
Yeah,
What?
that's good. Right, just like that.
Just move on. Move on.
Okay. So the NHL plans to return. On March 12th, 2020, the NHL paused the regular season due to concerns surrounding the coronavirus. On May 26th, the NHL declared the 2019-2020 regular season to be officially over. The remaining 189 games will not be completed. Here's the breakdown that was overwhelmingly supported by all teams except for two, Carolina and Tampa Bay. Some of the team votes were close and the discussions were heated, but the final vote showed the vast majority supported the proposal. The Boston Bruins win the President's Trophy for the best record in the NHL. The St. Louis Blues are Central Division champs and finished with the best record in the Western Conference. It's a shame that the NHL couldn't finish the season, because it would have been a treat to watch the Blues and the Avalanche battle it out for the division title. Because didn't they play the last game of the season or second last?
I think so. Yeah. They were. It's funny. I just rewatched the Blues' second to last game against the Panthers, and John Kelly and Darren Pang talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh man, that last game of the season is going to be a doozy, isn't it?
Yeah, and because Colorado they had a ton of injuries at the time, so down the stretch they were going to be hurting. Blues were relatively healthy. Tarasenko was getting ready to come back. So it would have been interesting, but now with Colorado pretty much they're all the way healthy, right? They're all good to go. Most teams are. So it'll be a different story now. This round robin will be interesting. But the St. Louis Blues are Central Division champs, finished with the best record in the Western Conference. The NHL has the initial outline for a playoff format set. 24 teams are in. Kind of. So the way I look at it, and we talked about this before, Jeff, that a lot of fans are kind of upset with the 24 teams being in and stuff, but I think the way you have to look at it is that the play-in round isn't part of the playoffs. You can look at it that way. You should look at it, that round is to determine who gets in to advance to the playoffs. I think that's fair. Now I think you asked the question, or somebody asked the question, whether or not, like, okay, say a goaltender plays it could be it's best out of 5. So it's best
19 games.
Well, it'd be not, but the first round is supposed to be best of 5 too after the play-in, right? Or
that's not for sure.
Well, I think it's rumored okay. If it is 5 games,
they're still debating between best of 5 and best of 7.
Either way, a goalie could play more than 16 games. So and that was a record that Bennington tied last year. So that record could be broken if they do factor in those play-in games as playoff games. I hope they don't. I hope they don't factor those in.
it's not a matter of, oh no, our goalie's not going to hold that record anymore. It's a matter of, or I guess with like 20 other goalies, it's a matter of that record literally cannot be broken. That's my problem with it. Like, we can say all day and night, Teemu Selanne, 76 goals as a rookie, that's never going to be broken. That's just an opinion. As hard as that's going to be to ever do that again, it could happen technically. 18, 19 wins in a playoff, that can never happen again unless they expand the number of teams that get into the playoffs, which, I mean, maybe they do that in 20, 30 years, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I don't know. I don't like that. I hope it just goes into regular season statistics, but and since you and I talked about this, Kurt, they've already basically said, well, this player is going to win the Rocket Richard, this player is winning the Jennings, this player is winning that. So if they've already decided that, then these have to count as playoff games, right? I mean, those stats have to count somewhere.
Well, here's the deal, though. They could just count. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's a great point. But you know what? Not counting them as playoff games makes sense when looking at it from the perspective of the draft lottery, which we'll talk about a little bit later, because those who lose in this play-in round will participate in the draft lottery and have a shot at the number one overall pick. Teams who made the playoffs in years past were not eligible for the number one pick in the draft lottery. So based on that, the play-in round is not part of the playoffs, but a way to finish out the regular season to determine who
I just
makes
think
the playoffs.
it's got to be regular season. I mean, 24 of the 31 teams are getting at least 3 more games, just included as part of the regular season.
Stats wise,
stats wise, yeah,
I agree with that. Or maybe it's, I mean, I don't. Yeah, maybe it won't count them at all. I mean, that's possible. They could just say they don't count.
That seems like weird to me. I mean, I know they do that with shootout.
It's like shootout. Yeah, shootout goals don't count towards your goal stats, so they do that.
That still just comes as weird to me. Like, you're gonna have those games and not have them mean anything.
This whole thing is weird, though. I mean, you know what I mean?
I know it's unprecedented. I agree. It's just, I feel like if you're gonna play full games in a best of 5 series, they need to count to something. I mean, those are big games. You want to talk about, well, this guy is a clutch player because he did this. Well, if it's not included in the stats, I mean, it's just odd to like reference something like that. Okay. Sorry, real quick. Winning Unlimited. I want to tell you, do not go away. He says, Jeff used to be in the media and I hate the draft lottery.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about the draft lottery, and I have some strong feelings, and I know you will probably agree with a lot of them, so don't go anywhere.
He has a history of draft analysis.
Yeah, if there's anyone that's going to side with my take on the draft lottery, it's going to be Winning Unlimited.
So the 12 qualifying teams from the East and West conferences were determined by points percentage as of the end of the season date. So 7 teams did not qualify. And actually, for those who, a number of people are saying, well, gosh, there's so many teams in the playoffs. Almost the exact, it's like 0.5% difference. So the same percentage of teams that make the playoffs this year made the playoffs during each season during the entire decade of the 80s. It's the same percentage. So there were less teams in the league then, but the percentage, like 16 teams made the playoffs in the 80s, and there were 24 teams, I think. So
I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point.
Thank you very much. So there 8 teams didn't make it then, 7 didn't make it now. So it's the league has a history of this percentage of teams making the playoffs or very close to it. So Bill and I,
your daughter is so smart.
Bill and I remember that. I don't think you were born yet, Jeff, for the 80s. So
I was born in 1999. So,
so the top 4 teams in each conference will get the top 4 seeds in each conference. They'll play a round robin tournament to determine who gets the 1 through 4 seeds. So the East is top 4: Boston, Tampa Bay, Washington, and Philadelphia. The West: St. Louis, Colorado, Vegas, Dallas. The other 16 teams will compete in a play-in round, which we talked about, consisting of 8 matchups that will each be a best-of-5 series. So in the East, it's the Penguins versus the Canadiens. which should be interesting. Hurricanes versus the Rangers, and the Canes are a little pissed because they're one of the teams that voted against this format because they went over against the Rangers during the season.
And that's why I think they honestly voted against this. It's Tampa Bay that puzzles me that they would vote against it.
Yeah. The Islanders and the Panthers. That's a 7-10 matchup, and the Maple Leafs and the Blue Jackets. So that's the 8-9 matchup. In the West, it's the Oilers and the Blackhawks, which I got to tell you, some people are picking the Blackhawks in this, and it's going to be interesting. I guess it depends if Kane and Taves can carry a team.
Kane will have to go off.
Yeah.
And Crawford could, he, in a best of 5, Crawford can steal the series.
Crawford can be very good.
Yeah. And I get if any team in the NHL is going to benefit from the amount of rest and not having the wear and tear of a regular season on their back going into the playoffs, it's the Blackhawks. Duncan
look out
Keith,
for Brent Seabrook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, David Backes isn't going to be in it, right? Anaheim's not one of the teams. So.
Yeah, right.
So don't look out for Brent Seabrook.
Right. The Predators are playing the Coyotes. That's the 6th and the 11th seeds. Canucks and the Wild, and the Flames and the Jets. So we'd love to see the Flames and the Oilers, but maybe down the road.
Hell, Flames
and Jets will be good.
That is going to be a hell of a series to watch.
Yep, agreed. And by the way, I want to reference going into this playoff, or going into the season. A lot of the playoff predictions had 4 teams from the Central and 4 teams from the what the hell is the other Pacific. And look at how the West is shaped out. The Blues, Avalanche, and Stars all from the Central, going for the top 4 teams, 3 of the 4, and only Vegas was the one that survived. I get that, and isn't it every Central team is included?
Everyone made the playoffs.
Also, granted, we only have 7. Every other division has 8,
but still,
yeah, it's tremendous. It's tremendous how good the Central Division is, and the fact that the Blues ended on top of that great division.
We're going just a minute, okay.
And for the YouTube chat, YouTube show, for those watching, you can see
that is not a dog anus.
No, it might be. I don't know. It's close.
Yeah,
a dog shoulder.
It's a dog shoulder.
I feel like this is the game we should guess boobs, butt, or shoulder. The close-up photo.
I'm gonna guess shoulder too.
You ever see that site? Yeah. Close-up photos of people's bodies. You got to guess boobs, butt, or shoulder.
No, of course I've never seen that site, Kurt. I've never been there.
It's in the far corners of the internet.
That's right.
It's a good one. You should check it out.
God, I'm sorry. Nobody's actually okay. Bill, don't take offense because nobody's actually seen your wife that listens to the show or your lady.
Well, Bill's not married,
not his wife. As I say, well, he doesn't have a wife. Jimmy Anderson says, "Looks like Bill's wife came back." I'm sorry. Hey, I know his girlfriend, and she is one of the finest ladies I've ever met. Just so everybody knows.
Okay. So remember we talked.
I would totally do her.
Remember before the show, Jeff, we talked about
thanks,
not having to read everything in the YouTube chat.
I'm sorry,
especially things from Jimmy.
That's so good though. That's a burn. That is such a good burn.
If he starts texting about Kobe Bryant, we're gonna mute your mic.
Okay, yes, good call. You probably should.
The winners of the play-in round will then advance to the final 16 playoff teams and be matched up against the top 4 seeds in each conference. So there's no word yet if this will be a bracketed system without reseeding, or if they'll reseed after the play-in round or any subsequent round. That is still yet to be determined. What's the holdup? Get it all done. Just decide already.
Isn't it the players want it reseeded, but the NHL prefers the bracketed thing, and that was one thing that Bettman just would not allow a decision to be made at the time. They wanted to get the announcement out. They wanted to be kind of the first North American sports league to make the announcement. And, it's just, it's, it's another one of these crazy situations where, the league and the players just can't come to an agreement on something that doesn't seem that complicated.
Right. Not near as complicated as the lottery. So and they've had some time now since this announcement. This is something that it would seem that you could hammer out in a couple days. Have a nice big conference, a web conference, discuss it, hammer it out, do some voting, come back the next day with a revision or two or whatever, and get it done. I mean, it shouldn't take this long. Get things in writing. I don't know. I guess they figure there's no rush because they're not actually starting play for another, over a month yet? Month and a half?
At least.
So
yeah, at least.
I guess there's not a huge rush, but still, you want to, I don't know.
Well, and even then, you don't have to make that decision until the qualifying round is over. So I'm not saying that they should wait that long. I'm just saying that technically they don't have to make that decision yet. That's why they haven't.
I mean, you got to worry about scheduling. I mean, the arenas and stuff. And I guess maybe more arenas could be available by then because they said that.
Well, I'll say why. I mean, as far as I know, they're still planning on the qualifying round and the first round to still be at a neutral site no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I know. But I mean, will the neutral site's schedule be completely wiped for the NHL? Or are they going to?
It has to be.
So after the preliminary round, they're going to then for a couple weeks just have nothing at these arenas except for NHL games.
You would think that wherever this neutral site's going to be, my guess is Vegas, but we'll see where that goes.
I would think so too.
It's going to be Vegas, but I would think they would say, okay, once they get the date that says you can start playing, you can start doing this, and they know when their first game is going to be, they could bracket out an entire schedule of all the way through the Stanley Cup final and say, we need these days and these times completely available. And they're probably going to be willing to pay those neutral sites a lot of money. So again, I get that as fans and even as players and coaches and managers, they want to know right away who we're going to be playing. If we win this series, are we going to be playing the top seed? Or are we going to be moving on to the next bracket and playing the third seed? But the NHL doesn't have to have that out right now. All they have to do is say, we're going to have a game at this time. We're going to have a game on this day at this time at this rink. And that's all they're worried about right now.
So the format was determined in meetings of the Return to Play Committee, which included executives from the NHL and the NHL Players Association and 5 players. Ottawa Senators defenseman Ron Hainsey, Edmonton Oilers center Connor McDavid, Winnipeg Jets center Mark Scheifele, and Toronto Maple Leafs center John Tavares, and Philadelphia Flyers forward James Van Riemsdyk. So
real quick question before we get into any serious discussion. Why is there an Ottawa Senator in there?
I don't know. Maybe how active.
Be like, listen,
you know what? It could be
Ron, can you sit this one out because it doesn't matter what you have to say.
That's a good point. Maybe it's how active they are in being a team representative because you know who the Blues representative is?
I did. It's David Backus. I'm kidding.
Parayko. Parayko is the Blues representative.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So, which is you don't hear much about that at all. But so he would be the guy to interview to discuss the inner discussions of the whole playoff format because he's the one that was speaking for the Blues. And
I'll get him on the show,
and he could probably tell you exactly what kind of inner discussions the Blues players were having and how many players were for or against it if there was any debates or heated discussions about it, because you would think that he would have been in on that. But the qualifying round and seeding round robin we held at 2 hub cities. We talked about that. To be identified later. The candidates are Chicago, which we'll talk about Chicago, Columbus, Dallas, Edmonton, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Pittsburgh, Toronto, and Vancouver. Those are the candidates. I think ideally they want to go one from the west, one from the east, but I don't think they're leaving out the option of two western or two eastern. But so Chicago's in there, and a lot of people were like, "What the? Why is Chicago in there?" When at the time that this was announced, they were a hotbed of Corona activity up there. It was like one of the worst in the nation because of the airport and the big city.
Just the fact that they're all on top of each other in a
Right.
big city.
Right. And the airport. I mean, it's such a busy airport, and people,
Yeah.
in the airport, they showed pictures of people just shoulder to shoulder in the airport, just crazy. So I'm guessing, and this makes sense to me, why Chicago is on this list is in case things get dramatically better in Chicago. I'm sure the league, they consider Chicago to be a very good option because of the amount of the hotels, the size of the city, the size of the market, and I guess the hotels in proximity to the arena make it a very good choice. So I think they're putting them on there maybe just in case things, by the time they have to make a decision, Chicago's in good shape now, so they're an option.
That to me is the only reason. And people might say Vegas. Why Vegas? August hockey in Vegas, 110 degree. It has nothing to do with that. I think it's all completely how close are hotels to ice arenas. And the reason, again, why I think they pick Vegas, and maybe other cities can make this case, I don't know. But I know with Vegas, there are literally hotels that have ice rinks inside of them. So I think there's two. So you literally wouldn't even have to leave the premises
but they
to
would
go
be,
play in your game.
They wouldn't be playing in those arenas, though. They'd be playing at the T-Mobile. They're T-Mobile, right?
Yeah.
From what I've heard, they're considering all options.
Okay, because Vegas also has literally like like 4 or 5 hotels right across the street from T-Mobile.
That too.
Real close.
Yeah.
Right.
Big ones.
It's basically
it's the same it's the same approach that the NBA is using saying Orlando. Right. They have one place where nobody has to be bussed to the premises. Everybody can easily walk there from their hotels. And when you're trying to put on this kind of mass tournament, and hotel rooms for spectators aren't an issue, this is exactly what you should be doing. I think Vegas is a shoe-in because of that reason. Chicago, they'd still have to be bussed. United Center's across the freeway from downtown, so it's not like you can just put people in hotels immediately around the arena like Las Vegas.
I like to call it lost wages.
Yeah.
Who else is a Frisky Dingo fan? Anybody? No? Oh man. Okay.
That's yeah. So it was such a great show. The precursor to Archer.
Yeah. Same cartoon style. They were a big influence on Archer.
Yeah. But I think the other city that I would tend to expect that would get the the vote, if there is to be one from the East, is going to be Toronto. Center of the hockey universe. They'll be able to get everybody downtown. I guess the biggest risk there is trying to keep the fans off the players.
Speaking of the fans, or the fans won't be in the arena. There'll be no fans, at least as of right now. With no fans in the arena, and no home games for Nashville because they're not on this list of possible cities. How are Nashville fans at home going to know who sucks?
Their team,
or would there's a power play?
Yeah, right. How are they going to know when they're on the power play? I wonder if they'll pipe in a home team music and the home team goal song. Surely they will, right? I mean, when home team scores. I mean, it's sure.
I don't know.
You'd think that they'd want to do that.
Yeah, that's easy to do too.
If you're talking about it's weird saying Vegas and Toronto would be neutral sites, but you're talking about, one arena hosting everything. Yeah, you wanna be able to give, whatever the home team is, and I guess you don't even have to just do the home team. You score as the away team, they can play the sound of your goal horn.
Jimmy Anderson
Why
wins
limit it
comment of the
just?
night. The Rams played with no fans for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Couple notes here. I do actually want to mention from our chat. Bill, sorry, you want to continue your point? Go ahead.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
No? Okay. He's mad at me now, just so everybody knows. Hawaii Blues fan does add New York is next door to T-Mobile, so that would be a good place to stay. Vegas Blues fan adds they have big hotels near the arena in Las Vegas, but in the past the league has always said the players could not stay at a hotel with a casino. I wonder if they'd make an exception for this.
I would say all previous policies and rules are kind of out the window right now. They're kind of whatever works.
And I'll say too, I've been listening to a lot of shows, a lot of podcasts, a lot of radio shows that have talked about this, and they've said, well, home team advantage doesn't matter because there's not going to be any fans. They've talked about the rules aren't going to matter. The only thing, and maybe I'm just being a picky asshole, is if the Vegas Knights play at T-Mobile, they know how the boards work. We've heard before that these cities, like Detroit, it was like a brick wall when you ran into the Joe Louis Arena boards, and they know how this kind of stuff works. So in a sense, the Knights would still get a little bit of a home team advantage. So that's the only issue I have with this, but it's such a small issue that I just want to say hockey. I don't give a shit.
A number of people I've seen have said, what does it matter who the home team is? Because there's no fans. And I'm like, there's a lot more to it than just having the home arena and the home fans. I mean, home team gets last change. That's a pretty big one.
I think they're going to do away with that, though.
Are they? What?
Yeah.
Do away with what?
Just
last change?
They're not going to have last change. They're not going to have the face-off rules. They're not going to have any of that.
Well, then what's who said that? Where'd you read that?
I read that from, I don't remember where it was. I'll have to find the source, but that is something I agree. That was my biggest issue.
I'm going to say that I don't buy that, because why then what is the benefit of being home team? There is none. If no fans, no arena. I mean, if you're not playing in your home arena, no fans, no home arena, no last change, none of that. They've got to have last change and everything for the home team. They have to. Why would they? What point would that make to take that away?
Because they don't want to deal with the home team advantage. They just want the teams to play.
But the seeding,
again,
the whole point of getting a better seed,
right.
The team you play is a better matchup. But
the team's better. That's the difference.
Yeah, but in a best of 5, you have the higher seed. You should have more advantages. You know what I mean? You earn that seed.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that brings too much of a change from a coaching perspective. Trying to come up with changing tactics just for this short window, for this playoff series. That doesn't, teams are built and strategies are built around the rules. So why change that just because you're playing off site? You still, even when we were kids and we would go to tournaments, there was always a home team, even though it wasn't our building.
Right.
And the rules weren't as dictated around the home team as they are in the NHL now with the face-off rules and whatnot. It wouldn't make any sense to me to do away with it just for this.
I'm gonna look it up. You guys go ahead. Keep going.
Did NHL Foley write that? Jeff? I mean, is that your source?
No names, Kurt.
Is that
no names, Kurt?
It's not a name. It's not a name. It's made up. It's fictional.
It's a Twitter
Move
handle.
on to something else with this. I'm gonna see if I can find that real quick. Maybe what I'm saying is complete bullshit. Maybe I dreamed it.
I mean, he does have NHL in his name, so if he wrote it, it's got to be true. Okay, moving on. Let's see, where are we? Where do we leave off at? The list of cities that are contenders. A number of people were saying, "Oh, St. Louis didn't make the cut." I remember when they were considering cities and they hadn't announced the cities that they had chosen. People were saying, "Oh, wow, St. Louis is up for running in this." I'm like, "Really? I don't think so." I mean, the hotels and the proximity. Where's the closest hotel to Enterprise? I'm trying to even. It's not close by, is it?
No, it's the one at Union Station.
Oh, yeah, okay, that one. But that's one hotel.
Actually, no, the Sheridan is where
Okay.
Bernie Federico used to have his.
Okay.
It's right across the street.
Be that as it may.
There are hotels in proximity, but there's no way St. Louis is ever going to be in the conversation. We don't we definitely don't have, it's hard for us to get a Final Four here anymore because we don't have the hotel capacity. We would never have gotten a Super Bowl because we don't have the hotel capacity.
Hotels have always been a problem, and that always came up with the Super Bowl talk in St. Louis. So I don't, and it was, I don't know, I'm not sure why anybody thought St. Louis had a shot at this, a legit shot. And some seemed disappointed. I was like, come on. I never thought we were.
Well, if you listen to Frank Cusimano's, news broadcast from his house, welcome to his home, by the way. You listen to enough of those night after night, you'll believe it.
Well, I mean, the big selling point in St. Louis had was the upgraded arena. Brand new upgraded arena, a lot of improvements there, which is nice. But there were too many other things that we just couldn't compete. So teams will be limited to 50 personnel members in their respective hub city. A small number of support staff will also be permitted in arenas. A comprehensive COVID-19 testing system will be put in place. Phase 2 of the return to play plan is expected to begin in early June. So that's like soon. But there's no official date for that. Phase 3 will include the start of training camp and is targeted for early July. So in a month or so, they hope to start phase 3, which is training camp. Phase 4, which has no target date at all, none of these have target dates, will include the return of play with clubs facing off in 2 hub cities for round robins, qualifying rounds, and the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, and I think someone tossed out the mid-August start date for the playoffs, which seems late to me. I was thinking late July, early August, the latest, but mid-August seems real late.
Yeah, the consensus that I had heard was probably first week of August.
Okay. All of this will affect the start and end date of next season, as well as the schedule for next season, but it will be a full schedule according to Bettman. So, okay, you guys, I don't know if we've covered this with you guys. Are you in favor of restarting the season or jumping right to the playoffs and going this route? A lot of people have been outspoken and saying, just end the season already. So are you on board with this, or would you rather see them just abandon this season and then start next season in October? Because the start for next season and the end is going to be pushed back a couple months at least,
Right. No, I mean, the thing is, there is no guarantee that there isn't going to be a second wave and next season isn't going to be impacted anyway. So if they have the safety precautions in place and they can bring a conclusion to it, I think that is, I would prefer it. I would prefer there to be a conclusion. I've made the joke. I know a lot of us have that. Go ahead and end it. The Blues will be Stanley Cup champions for another year. But honestly, I want them to play. If they can do it safely, and I'm all for doing it in a different manner, and having resolution, shorten next season back, and then maybe we can actually, if that works, and the playoffs are exciting this year, the playoffs are exciting next year, maybe we can have some conversation about actually shortening the NHL regular season, and having maybe an expanded playoff format going forward. But
I know
I don't know.
Bettman said next season's schedule will not be. Well, it will be a full schedule, which means that it'll be a compressed schedule. Obviously, you won't have these 4 and 5 day breaks. The week off is going to be gone probably.
Right.
Maybe
Well,
maybe no All-Star
They're
game.
going to have to agree to that.
I know, but maybe no All-Star game.
Well,
Um,
but yeah, I think they would do away with the All-Star game, but I also think he has to say that, so as not to get the ire of the broadcasters, lawyers, up, and start getting threat letters about you have to have a full season. We have a contract.
Was it Mornley the cat? Mornley the calyx? I don't know how to pronounce that. In the YouTube chat says, I thought that wasn't true. Isn't the cup supposed to annotate that there is no champion this year? Yeah, I think what Jeff was saying is that we're still
Right.
we are the last team to win the cup, so we're essentially the defending champions. But on the cup itself, It would say no champion, no cup awarded, or something like that.
Right, COVID-19, because it has a reference to the Spanish flu from 1918,
1919, yeah. Yep.
I'll add that I did look up what we were talking about earlier, which is why I've been silent. Russ Joy, friend of the show, the Snow the Goalie podcast, the Philadelphia Flyers, he was on the conference call with Gary Bettman, and basically looks like, from what he tweeted, in terms of home ice advantage, the only rule that would stay in place is the last line change.
That's it?
Yeah, it looks like face off with the last stick going down, all of that. There's even talk of maybe home team advantage includes an extra timeout, which I'm not a fan of.
I don't understand the reason behind removing some of those things. That doesn't make any sense to me. What's the point? I'd love to.
I couldn't tell you.
I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm not asking. I'm not really asking. I'm just like, I'm thinking out loud. It's that's puzzling to me.
Right.
It seems arbitrary
for the sake of change.
Yeah, it's arbitrary change. I don't understand why you would do that, because you would think you wouldn't want to take away other advantages when you're already taking away the fans that the team have. I mean, there's so much momentum is drawn from the fans. That's a big part of home ice advantage, even though I guess in the playoffs they always say home ice advantage is overrated because it's the Blues won a lot more road games than home games last year in the playoffs. So, but I don't know. You would think that they would want to give teams an advantage with the no fans being there.
As far as you guys talking earlier, Austin Lynch, friend of the show, says, I heard Bettman said that the Winter Classic might be the first game of next season. And that makes you wonder if they really are planning on doing an 82-game season, which I personally don't think they are. I think that's a lip service for, like Bill mentioned, contracts to be fulfilled. You'd probably see next year go later. You'd see August Stanley Cup final, September Stanley Cup final, and then you're talking the next season, 2021, 2022. You have to start that at least in November. If
and
that's
the
case.
You know what? I'm fine with that. I'm fine
with it too.
I'm fine to take a 2-3 seasons down the road to slowly stagger back to the approximate start dates and that we usually have. I don't. So what? I don't care. What do I care?
I don't see a problem with it either.
I'm with you 100%. You have to give the team that wins the cup their fair time with the cup and time off to rest. You got to give them a few months off. So except for this season, I don't think that's necessary, because there's a lot of talk about people say, oh, the injuries next season are going to be terrible. They're going to finish the playoffs and they're going to have just a little bit of time off and then go into the season. No, they're going to have a substantial amount of time off, because really you can't finish the season, award the cup, and then say, okay, next month we're starting the season up again. Because how do you can't shortchange a team's time with the cup. You know what I mean? You got to get. You can't do that.
All the stuff from the postseason or in the off season that happens. You got to have the actual draft. Now, granted, they're not going to do it in a arena. It's going to be like the NFL did. But you got to allow time for that. You got to allow time for free agents. There's plenty more that has to be done in that time.
Yeah, and again, I don't care if they're off on the start and end dates for the next 2-3 seasons to get it back. It doesn't matter. Somebody said on Twitter the other day about playing hockey in the summer. I was like, I got things to do in the summer. I can't be watching hockey. I'm like, baseball goes on in the summer too. Are you a baseball fan? Do you watch baseball?
You know what I do over the summer? Miss hockey. That's what I do.
And the thing too with I think a number of people have said that, it'll be too warm in the summer for hockey. The ice surface. That is such a thing that's said all the time. You hear those comments every year around the Winter Classic. The temperature outside is not a big deal to indoor ice surfaces, especially when there's no fans in the arenas.
They played that game. If you look back, I think it's on YouTube, but I don't know, that preseason game in September back in like '94
in Vegas,
I think, with the range. I think it was Rangers and Kings.
Yeah, it was
outdoor game, and the ice was fantastic.
Yeah, it was night. It was a night game. It was a night game.
It was.
Yeah, because the biggest issue with sun is direct sunlight. The ice surface is direct sunlight. So a sunny day, a cold sunny day, could cause issues. A cloudy, warmer day, not so much. So
especially if you're indoors, it doesn't matter.
Right? Exactly. That's my point.
Isn't the thing with hockey arenas though? It's the humidity. The puck bounces more when there's humidity,
right?
And Dallas and St. Louis are notorious for having bouncy ice during the playoffs.
As far as this go around though, being in the dead of summer, Dallas and St. Louis aren't in the mix. So, but as far as next season, if they go late or whatever, then which they will, then I think that's an issue that if there's no fans in the building, which hopefully by then there would be next season, my God, no fans helps, because that when you pack a building with 18,000 fans, that really increases the temperature in the building. So if there's no fans in there, it's quite chilly. I don't care how hot it is outside. If there's no fans in the building, it's going to be chilly, and the humidity would be less. With the AC pumping. So
have you guys ever been to Blues training camp?
When
they have it at Scott Trade.
It's cold,
Enterprise or whatever. It's cold.
Yes,
it's cold. You got to wear pants.
You got to wear a sweatshirt and jeans.
And that's September in St. Louis.
Yeah. I think it'd be fine. Ice surface. Bettman actually commented directly on this, or not Bettman. Who was it? Daly commented directly on this. That the refrigeration systems in today's arenas are more than ample to handle summer hockey inside. So, for the most part.
Fun fact. If you take one letter out of Bill Daly's name, you get a co-host of this show.
You get a bi-daily.
Yes.
All right. So thoughts on this overall 2014 plan, guys?
You know what? Let me just say real quick. I gave my opinion last week. If you want to hear it, tune in again to the Grant Fuhr episode. I'm all for it. That's all I'll say. I'll leave closing thoughts on this to you two.
Bill?
Yeah, I'm all for it. Like I said, if they can do it safely, I'm fine with doing, having the format different. To Kurt's point at the very beginning of the discussion, I don't need we don't need to call the playing round the playoffs. The 16 team tournament, that's your Stanley Cup tournament. Um, bring it on. That's what I want to see.
I think because essentially that playing round could be considered the end of the regular season, even though they said they officially ended the regular season. That play-in tournament, that play-in round, is essentially the end of the regular season. It's determining which teams, that even the slightest chance to make the playoffs, they're there. Every team that had a slight chance to make it, no matter how tiny, Montreal's was like microscopic, but it was a chance. And so they're there. So this actually technically is the most fair way, because the Blues went on a tear last year. Nobody thought they were going to make the playoffs in early January, and they turned around and they won the cup. So if the season had ended in January of last season and they said, oh nope, regular season's over, there's a virus and we're going right to playoffs, the Blues don't win the cup because they weren't even close. They weren't in. But the teams that were mathematically still alive are in it. I'm fine with Chicago and Montreal getting in, to be honest. Because they're the people those are the two teams that people bring up. If you can't beat Montreal or Chicago in a 5-game series, then go home. I'd love to see the Blues actually take on Chicago in the first round of the final 16 if it ends up that way. I would, and not because it should be an easy matchup on paper, but because it's the Blues of Blackhawks, man. It'd be awesome. Who doesn't want to see that? As far as I'm sure the Hawks would love to advance. Hell, they were almost out of it. And what Blues fan doesn't want to see a matchup between the Blues and the Hawks? I don't know. It's Bruins. That matchup is like the Bruins and Canadiens to me. It's like Red Wings and Avalanche to me. It's like Flames and Edmonton to me. Bring it on. In this format,
I was going to add Jason Miller in the Facebook chat, which I think normally he goes by Crappy Goalie in the YouTube chat. If there are no fans in the arena, they are able to make the temperature even colder than usual. The ice will not be a problem.
Yeah, and
he's 100% right.
Excellent.
When I play ice hockey, it is fucking cold in some of those rinks at the Mills or whatever the Mills is called now. There's times where I'll be in the third period and my feet are freezing because the ice temperature is so cold because they got it high up because they for whatever reason had people in the stands earlier. So yeah, that's not going to be an issue.
It is certainly a unique, strange, and awkward situation. So, and if the NHL is to resume the season, my take is this is as good a plan as any. You're not going to please everyone with any plan, but I do think that this one is. I'm fine with it. I'm good with it. I miss hockey, so that's part of it. It's selfish on my part, maybe a little bit to some degree, but it is what it is. Bill, did you say you were taking off?
Yeah, we're in the midst of a couple dog meltdowns here, and it's bedtime for me.
All right.
It's a school night, so good chatting with you boys. Look forward to doing it soon, and hopefully we'll have some real hockey to talk about.
Yeah, hopefully in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Bill, always good to talk to you, sir, and hope you and the lady are staying safe and very healthy.
We're doing our best. You guys too.
See you, Bill.
See ya.
So real quick before we get on to the next topic, you mentioned his name earlier, her name, his name, Mornell the Calyx.
Yeah,
on the YouTube chat.
I can't read.
Guys, have you heard anything about the NHL broadcasting the games in virtual reality, VR? I have not. Kurt, have you heard anything about that?
No. Like generally speaking, like eventually or for this playoff. I can't imagine they would throw that in the mix right now.
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe because they're going to have the rink all to themselves to test things, but I don't see that happening this playoff.
I don't know. Now when she means virtual reality, she means basically being able to put on a headset and it's like you're in the stands.
You're right.
I'm assuming that'd be badass. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
What you know what though, to be that would you would think that would be a subscription based service the NHL would sell, because that would keep some fans away from the rink, wouldn't you say? I mean, maybe. I mean, you don't get that atmosphere necessarily, but hell, I mean, if anybody who's worn a VR headset, that's pretty real.
That's the talk of live sports. But I'm with you, man. Like, I don't know if sports are going to be open to that, because they're already at a point where they're saying HD TV is killing them. So do they really want to explore that? I mean, I guess the way of the future, you kind of have to, but I don't know.
The Mornell, the Calyx, said, yeah, Oculus Rift is what Eklund mentioned. Eklund. Well, if it's Eklund, you take that with a grain of salt. Was it E3 on that one or something?
Yeah, I was at E3. Yeah, of course. Guy, are you still with us there in the YouTube chat? Because you're getting a little called out here by Jimmy Anderson. Jimmy and trivia champions, and Jimmy's wanting to take him down in a trivia championship belt. That could be a lot of fun. We could do that in the next couple of weeks.
We could set that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff? I think I did.
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here.
All right.
You lost me for a second, but I'm here.
He's down but not out.
I think they're taking advantage of us a little bit here.
The storm?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's hitting you first. I should get in about 20 minutes, half an hour.
Probably. Yeah.
So the draft lottery has been proposed, and I have read this thing a few times, and it's confusing as shit. So I know you had some thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I did a little research on it, because I figured we may bring it up in this live show you mentioned earlier to Bill and I in the week, that we might be doing a live show this week. So I thought, you know what, I'll learn the draft lottery, because that way Curtin doesn't have to. Because it's insane. So for those of you, and let's go ahead and face this too. The Blues are not affected. This whole conversation we're about to have, it's about the other teams, the 7 teams not participating, 8 teams that lose in the qualifying round. So the Blues are not affected by any of this. But it is important to note for anybody who's a fan of the NHL and anybody who pays attention to the draft. There are some big names that are going this year in the draft. Okay, here's the best way I can describe it. 15 teams are going to be in the draft lottery. So again, 24 teams are making the playoffs, or whatever you want to call it. 7 teams are not participating in the 2014 playoff. Those 7 teams are automatically in the draft lottery. That's the Red Wings, the Senators, the Sharks, the Kings, the Ducks, the Devils, and the Sabres. Now, since there's going to be 15 teams involved in the draft lottery, the other 8 teams are the teams that lose in the qualifying or the play-in round. So they're going to have this draft lottery on June 26th. The way it's going to work, so if you watch this, it's only going to be for the top 3 picks. And it's going to have, there's going to be 8 placeholder spots in the draft lottery. And if any of them win a top 3 spot, they're going to have a second draft lottery after the qualifying round to determine who gets what spot. So basically, okay, let me read here. So basically there's a potential that Edmonton, if they lose to Chicago, Pittsburgh, Calgary, they could all get in the top 3. Now the draft lottery odds have the Red Wings as the highest at 18.5. Then 2 goes to the Ottawa Senators at 13.5. And then again, the Senators, because they own San Jose's number 1 pick in the Erik Karlsson deal, which, side note, What the hell? Why is Doug Wilson not mentioned as one of the worst GMs in the NHL?
Isn't that awful? At a time when the Sharks could really use a shot at the number one pick, with the season they had, I feel like we should ask the Teal Town guys if they'd rather have Carlson or this pick.
Oh, this pick.
I'm
for
just saying.
sure.
I'm just saying. I know, right? That's the point.
And it's like it's funny because you look at what happened with the Senators a couple years ago when they had the option to draft at number 4 or defer to the next year, and they chose to draft Brady Tkachuk. And everybody gave him shit then, saying you might have the number 1 pick next year, and they ended up still getting the number 4 pick. But still, the shit that went to them. How is San Jose not facing all of that talk and people talking about Doug Wilson not knowing what the hell he's doing?
Maybe they are locally. Let's ask Teal Town.
Yeah, we'll have to ask them. That's a good call.
Friends of the show, Teal Town. Yeah, let's ask them.
Maybe I'll have a short conversation with one of them before the next Past the Future show, and ask them about that. But anyway, that's a complete tangent side note, which is what we're best at on the show. So again, Detroit, Ottawa, then it goes to LA, Anaheim, New Jersey, and Buffalo. That is the best odds for the draft lottery. And then after that, it goes from basically team A to team H, which is the teams that are going to be playing in the qualifying round that lose. So, you follow me so far, Kurt? Am I losing people, you think?
I mean, you're probably. I mean, generally speaking, you usually do. But this is trigonometry nerd stuff. So.
This is nuts. So anyway, again, so talking about the top. So they're going to have a draft lottery on the 26th again to bring us back into this full conversation. And it's only for the top 3 spots. So best odds, Detroit. Best odds after that, Ottawa, and then the other teams that are not in the in Ottawa. The second time I mentioned them is because they own San Jose's number 1 pick. So they have the best odds. Chances are there's a good chance that all the teams that don't make the qualifying round are going to get in the top 3 spots, which is fine. But if that doesn't happen, then the rest of the draft order, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong spot here. So basically, they'll have a second draft. They'll have a second draft lottery if one of the placeholder spots, so that'd be a spot where the one of the qualifying teams would have a chance to jump in the top 3. They would hold a second draft lottery at that point, and that would be after the qualifying round ends and they know which teams lost. So Kurt's shaking his head for those of you on the podcast, and I'm 100% with him. So again, we went over the draft lottery odds. Here's the thing that and I'm going to try to simplify this as much as possible. And that's the problem the NHL made. They are not simplifying this. They made it too difficult. And if you go back a couple weeks, and I'm sure people listening to the show, you might have seen some of this on Twitter or Facebook or TSN or whatever. The NHL was adamant that they were going to have the draft lottery before they decided anything about the rest of this season, which was asinine because it's you don't know where teams are going to finish. So you're going to basically have a 30-team draft lottery to where a Stanley Cup winner might get the number 1 pick. I mean, granted, it was a small percentage, but if that happens, you're going to give the number 1 pick to a Stanley Cup winner. That is the exact opposite of what you want out of the draft. So for them to do that beforehand was ridiculous. And they were threatening NHL teams. This is going to happen. Just prepare yourselves. We're going to hold the draft soon. And the NHL, all 30 owners were against it and said, absolutely not. This is stupid. Why? Why do it? Why do you need to have the draft? And I think we're facing the same problem here too, Kurt, is the fact that the NHL wants to have this draft for whatever reason. They want to have the draft lottery figured out. They want to get this out. I think it's because they want to have more NHL news dominating headlines. Whether that's the case, I don't know.
But the NHL draft lottery is never huge news anyway. You know what I mean?
But at this point in sports, when there's nothing else going on,
but
it might be.
But the first round is 3 picks, right?
The phase 1 is what they're calling it.
Phase 1, 3 picks. How much time can you fill with that? It's not
so
like
here's what I think. Phase 1, they have a phase 1, and then phase 2 is if one of those placeholder teams gets in the top 3, then they're going to figure out, they're going to have a phase 2 draft. Now, if all 3 top teams are from the teams that are not going to be playing in the qualifying round, they're not going to hold phase 2. They don't need to. It's just going to go in order of the odds, or the winning percentage from the regular season. They're doing this because they want to get ratings, I think, personally. But you don't need to have a phase 1. This whole, let's figure out who's going to be in the top 3. You don't have to do that. This placeholder thing is complete nonsense. Just wait until the qualifying round's over and then have your lottery. Then you figure out, okay, the Red Wings will draft first. Let's say, Penguins draft second because they lost. And drafting third, the Montreal Canadiens.
But okay,
you don't have a placeholder in spot if you wait to just have your draft lottery until after the qualifying round.
But aren't some of these players going to need to know where to go, where to play? Because they're these minor league clubs, these juniors teams, they're going to be starting their leagues and seasons. So,
yes.
You know what I mean? So
No, I get that.
So they
but
do need to get
what's
it going.
the guarantee? What's the guarantee that these 3 teams are going to pick the top 3 players? We've seen jumps before where guys are rated to be number 2 and they drop down to number 7. You never know where you're going to be drafted. Yeah,
I know, but I guess I'm just trying to rationalize why they want to get this done, and it's got to. I don't know. It's got to be. There has to be other reasons. There has to be something besides NHL news. I don't know. Because
it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, because it's got to have something to do with getting players where they need to go for the start of training camp and seasons.
But they don't know that until they have the draft anyway.
That's what I'm saying. They want to have the draft to get it done. The sooner they start it, the sooner it's done. Like when
they draft, what does the draft lottery have to do with sooner they can get the draft done? You're not going to know the draft order until you have the Stanley Cup winner.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So it doesn't matter what the draft lottery is.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's ridiculous.
I don't know.
The last thing that I'll say about this and my other bashing of this is let's just say the Montreal Canadiens. And you know what? Yeah, Montreal Canadiens. Let's go with them. Let's say they are down 2-0 in their series. And they say, you know what? The management says, we would probably like to get I forget the guy's name, Lafayette. I can't say his name right. The number 1 pick this year. We'd love to get him on our roster. We're down 2-0 in this qualifying series. Carey Price seemed to kind of tweak his knee in the 3rd period of the last game. Let's just not play him. Let's let the backup have a game and see what he can do, quote unquote. You know that management, they would rather see the number 1 pick come to them than win a meaningless best of 5 game in the qualification round. They will tell coaches, hey, don't play Carey in this game. Now the players are going to play. They're going to play their hardest because that's what hockey players do. But when it comes to the management, they want what's best for the franchise as a whole. And as a whole, you want the number one pick. You're not going to go on and win the Stanley Cup when you're down 2-0 in the qualifying round. So talking about competitiveness, you might see players that are sitting because, hey, we have a chance to get the number one pick. So why the hell would we even try to win this meaningless game when we're going to, get past Team A and only to play the President's Trophy winner? It doesn't make sense to me. I think it's completely silly.
I was racking my brain earlier trying to understand everything, and I'm not gonna keep doing it. It's not fun.
It's just there's so much about it that doesn't make sense. Again, if you just wait until the qualifying round's over, you don't have teams second guessing whether they should try to win or not. They're just gonna say, you know what, let's go for the win. If we can't win, no problem. We have a better shot to get the draft lottery. But if there's a placeholder that gets in that top 3, I think you might see teams management considering a tank. Why not?
Are they going to make that known?
Yeah.
If there's a placeholder?
It's going to be public.
See, if they kept it secret, that's a different story.
What? But again, then why would you have it if it's going to be a secret?
I don't know. I don't know.
Like I said,
I've tried to understand it and figure it out, and it's just my brain is not meant to think that way.
It's completely asinine. I have no idea why they think this is the way to go. It's completely ridiculous and backwards. I feel bad for our listeners because they had to hear all that, and I tried my best to explain that in the easiest way possible, but it is very difficult.
Anyway, I don't have anything to add to that. I don't think our listeners want us to expand on that.
Probably not. It's I don't think you'll find anyone who could argue that. It's just it makes no sense. You're not helping anybody by having this 2-phase draft lottery system.
I think, on that note, I think we're about out of topics. We'll finish strong.
All that matters to me is that Winning Unlimited said, "I loved it, Jeff. Please continue." Adam, we will. You know what? When we get back to the rink and we are strapping on the skates, we will have this conversation many times. I'm sure.
I'm sure he soaked that up.
Oh, he loved it. I know he loved it. He's in heaven right now, hearing somebody else bitch about the NHL's draft lottery system.
Well, he has a long history of that. He should plug his I think his presentation is on YouTube. He should plug it in the chat.
Yeah, it's before we go, if you want to jump on and tell us where people can find it, we'll tell one. But I will say, if you just Google the Gold Plan, that is a very well-known plan amongst not GMs, but commissioners in every sport. So the Gold Plan, you can find it anywhere. But go ahead, Adam. If you have one spot in particular that's the best to find that, go ahead and post it before we close up shop here.
I don't think Bill missed much.
No. Is that a knock on me or the NHL?
No, it's totally a knock on the topic in general. There's no polishing that turd. So
Brad Warthog wants to know if we have a possible date for this trivia battle with the Flying Hawaiian and Jimmy. We should do that. TBD. Jimmy, you've been a hard man to get a hold of. Guy, I know how to get a hold of you. Jimmy, send me a message with either your email or phone number or something on Twitter, and I will. That way we can get better contact, and we'll schedule something because that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I think that's gonna about do it. And Adam wants to get his link in there. I don't know when we're gonna do a next live show. You're coming back with the next interview from the Past to the Future series, Jeff, pretty soon.
Yeah, so I will add that tomorrow morning, actually, I'll be interviewing former St. Louis Blue draft pick and played, I think, 15 games for the Blues at the end of one season. Phil McRae, he will be on soon. Obviously, his father, Basil McRae. Oh, wow, Jimmy just literally posted his phone number in the chat.
Oh,
so
jeez.
Jimmy, we love you.
Can I? How about I'll do him a favor. I'll just remove that. Yeah.
I'll say, can you copy what he just posted?
Too late. Oh, there I can view it.
Yeah, but if you can view it, send that to me.
Yeah,
and
I can.
will.
Yes,
yeah,
I can.
Jimmy, I'll text you.
I took it out for his own. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, good call.
Maybe it's a Google Voice number or something he doesn't care about.
Yeah, no, that's good. But no, so yeah, I know Phil McRae will be on soon, but the biggest one is next week, unless we have a live show. Bernie motherfucking Federko was my guest recently,
Bernie Federko.
That was. Kurt, you've had the pleasure of meeting him and sitting down and having a beer with him.
That was one of the best discussions of my life. That was so much fun.
He is such a fun guy. He is so nice and just an open book, willing to talk about anything. It's funny because, before I do these interviews, you don't hear this part because I don't record it. I ask every one of these guys, is there something that you don't want me to touch on? Like Jamie McLennan, he had a lot of stuff that he talked about on his radio show about him going out and getting really messed up and then coming to Blues practice. And I asked him, do you not want me to mention this on a Blues podcast? And that's the kind of stuff I asked these guys before. I asked Bernie, I go, hey man, there's a lot of stuff in your book about your relationships with past players and GMs and coaches. Is there anything I can't say? And he goes, Jeff, I am 100% an open book. You can ask me anything you want. And that's the kind of guy he is. You could do that in person with him and he has no problem talking about whatever you want to talk about. He is such a fun guy. So we have a great about 40-minute conversation. And I know anybody listening to this show right now is going to love to hear that.
So you said the interview is done?
Oh, it's already done. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Are you offended I didn't invite you for it?
No, I mean a little bit, but whatever. That's fine. I've talked to him, met him.
It was over the phone for reasons I don't want to discuss, but it had to be over the phone, so it's not a video one. But there will be a video released with all of Bernie's big clips included for those of you who like to watch us on YouTube.
I have a feeling if I had another conversation with him, it would. I don't know how the last one I had with him could be topped. So I'll just leave it at that.
You know what? I've talked to him a couple times. This one was a lot of fun, but the time with you when we sat down with him after his autograph signing, that I'm with you. That was one of the best conversations I've ever had in my life.
Well, that was fun because we were just sitting there hanging out and everyone had left. And we were like one of the last tables there. And JR sat down and then Federko sits down and I'm like, holy shit, Federko just sat down at our table. It was like just
it's funny because
just five of us just sitting there.
I went up to and in front of the show, Crappy Goalie was with us too. And it's funny because I was talking to Jeremy right before that because obviously I know him fairly well. He's been on the show before. And I was like, hey, if you want to stop by our table later, I'll buy you a beer. And he goes, yeah, maybe I'll bring Bernie over. Mm-hmm. And I remember I even told Bill that. And Bill goes, yeah, right. And then 10 minutes later, Jeremy sits down and Bernie's walking by and Jeremy starts motioning him over. And that was so much fun just talking to him about his playing days and stuff. That was unedited version of what Bernie has to say. It was so much fun.
I think that'll do it. That'll wrap up episode 68 of season 8 of the original St. Louis Blues Hockey Podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio. Thanks for listening, and thanks to our listeners who participated in the chat during the live show. We hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. For Jeff Ponder, Bill Day, and Bill Day, I'm Kurt Price. Until next time, everyone, stay safe, and let's go Blues.
Stay safe. Justice for George Floyd. Let's go Blues.
The Chiefs are at home tonight against Cyanosport at the War Memorial at 8. Good seats are still available.
A look at sports.
I think that went very well.
Thank you for listening to Let's Go Blues Radio. Now take off, hosers.
Well, there's 90 minutes of your life you'll never get back. Sorry.
St. Louis Blues, St. Louis Blues. Have you heard the news about our St. Louis Blues? They've only just begun, they're on their way to number one. Now there's no more blues for our St. Louis Blues.